Hello and welcome to the Dyno Six Pack Dynasty Football Podcast. Today I'm joined by my guest Aaron St. Dennis at FF Mad Science on Twitter. I guess it's X now. How are you doing today, man?
Not bad. Thanks for having me, man. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Appreciate you flexible. We were going to record the show last week, but got sick, and so I had to reschedule. So I appreciate you being flexible. But I'm doing good. I'm feeling much better. I got my voice back now. We're going to talk about like my favorite conference in football. So it's going to be a good Monday.
Sweet, yeah. It's a little rusty. I've been taking it kind of slow since the expo, so I think you're maybe my third podcast in a week. So,
Okay.
a little out of sync here, feeling a little exhausted. I just kind of decided maybe I'll take a few weeks off before the season starts. Went pretty heavy, and now I feel like I'm still recovering from the expo.
It's kind of weird, right? I feel the same way. But don't even worry. So this is my first show at all since the expo, since I got sick, and so I have 3 shows just today. So you're kind of my warm up, the rest of them. So we'll both be rusty together. So we'll just fumble our way through this one, and we should be all right.
Can you hear a child screaming in the background at Fortnite, or is my mic low enough that you can't hear him? No? Okay.
Honestly, no, I can't hear it, but even if we did, I like to kind of play through the distraction, so I'm good with it. We can just roll through it. Some you may hear my killer barking, like 12-pound dogs.
Yeah,
like barking
I get the dogs and the Fortnite screams every once in a while get on my mic, but so far I guess he's not too bad.
Sounds like a fantastic combination, honestly.
I love it.
All right, so what we're going to be doing here today, guys, everybody and their dog that has a football podcast has done like a division preview right now where they've kind of gone through the team, like these are the additions they've made, like here's kind of the predictions, here's where the roster changed. So we're going to kind of stay away from that, do kind of a variation of a division preview here. What we're going to go through is go through each team, and then we're going to give like one storyline we're following kind of closely, making one prediction, and then kind of twisting how that's going to affect dynasty leagues and some moves you can make off of that. So kind of like a modified conference preview here, and we're going to start with the NFC today. Before we get started here, make sure you guys hit the subscribe and like button. If you want to head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans, we have an awesome membership over there. We have betting stuff, dynasty tools, redraft, stuff for every single sphere of like fantasy pros, contest, accuracy winners in each sport. And then you also get access to a Discord forum where you can like DM me directly, and we can help you out with your fantasy teams. Hop in there all the time and just tag like the analyst tag, and we'll ask their questions, and they'll get 7-8 responses from people right then and there. It's pretty fun. I think it's only like $5 or $6. It's definitely worth it. So head on over there. Again, that's fantasy6pack.net/plans. With that said, man, you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so we are going to start off, like I said, we're in my favorite conference in football, so we might as well start with my favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys here. The one storyline that I'm following closely, just because like the moves that they have made have not matched up with what they said they wanted to do. I'm intrigued to see the run-pass balance kind of plays out with them this year, because at the start of the offseason, they come out, McCarthy gets rid of one of the best offensive coordinators in football because he's like, I will run the ball, we want to slow it down, we don't want to just light the scoreboard up. But then they let Zeke walk and basically replace him with Deuce Vaughn, who was awesome, but he's 5'5", he's not going to be able to Zeke guys. And then we trade for Brandon Cook. So like those moves don't line up with the team that wants to run the ball, in my opinion. So that's a storyline that I'm following, because I have a big impact on kind of how the rest of the team plays out fantasy wise.
Yeah, I looked at your show sheet here and I said, great, we're off to one question, and I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know. I hate this conference. I like the AFC. It's so much easier. This conference, there's just so many. I don't know how this is going to play out. Like, they've got some weapons to pass to. Dak's getting older. Doesn't look like he's the passer he used to be. So maybe they look like they were going to go run heavy. They got rid of Zeke. Tony Pollard, like, I don't think he's going to hold up to the workload. So this is one where I think they benefit best from a 50, a pretty balanced offense, because I don't think Tony Pollard holds up to it, but I don't think they have the firepower to go full passing game here. So an aging Dak who can't really run as much, CD Lamb's, their prime weapon, maybe Pollard pass catching out of the backfield. Brandon Cooks, who knows what he has left. Same with Michael Gallup. This one should be an even 50-50 split here if they have any common sense.
Yeah. I think if they really wanted to run the ball like they said they wanted to, they would have signed like Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, someone else to kind of come in and timeshare with Tony Pollard. Just because I agree, like Pollard is awesome, but I don't know that he's a 25 touch a game guy just because he's not going to hold up for a full season. He's better than that like 16 to 18 touch per game, and he can still be awesome for your fantasy league, be an RB1 there, and then hold up and be there for fantasy playoffs, which is when it matters. So kind of playing off what you said with Dak here, that kind of plays right into like my prediction for this team. And on a per game basis, he's pretty healthy. And one of the questions that I asked like the medical panel at the expo actually afterwards, when I kind of broke off, I asked one of the guys he said he's an Eagles fan. He's like, all right, give me straight. Like Dak obviously had a bad year last year with interceptions. I was like, how I'm pretty optimistic just because he literally broke a bone on his throwing hand and came back 4 weeks later, like as he's rehabbing, played through it. I'm like, how much do you think some of those interceptions could be due to that hand? And he's like, yeah, you could be onto something there. Like the way that can heal, sometimes you can have kind of some funky days where like it's more sore than others. So he said that he's optimistic that he'll bounce back. So my prediction is that Dak stays fully healthy again this year. He finishes as the QB 7 or 8 for fantasy.
See, my fear with Dak isn't like I think you're right. I think the passing itself gets better. I just think the issue with Dak is the rushing numbers. That was what really gave him the elite ceiling, and the rushing numbers are just evaporating. He's still, a pretty solid value. We were talking before this, and I was finishing up a draft, and I missed on Dak, but I don't remember where he went, but like it was like QB 18 or something. Like behind, He was behind Richardson, he was behind Cousins, I think I ended up missing on him, and I ended up getting Russell Wilson. But so at that price, this was a single QB league. He's free. You can't miss on it, but I don't know. I think he has top 12 potential. I don't know if he gets into the top 8. I see him as 10, 11, 12, right around there. To me, he's fancy Kirk Cousins. Like I think he is, but I like Kirk Cousins' weapons better. I don't know. He's someone where I haven't avoided him. I'm not targeting him. I have some shares because he's cheap. I think he's a low-end QB1.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like for me, I got the big 4 quarterbacks ahead of him. Of course, Burrow, Hurts, Mahomes, Allen. I think Lamar is going to finish ahead of him. I think Herbert's going to light it up this year with Kellen Moore. More on that in our AFC preview tomorrow. And then after that, I think that's kind of where Dak could slot in there if he stays healthy. Kind of that Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Dak, maybe Anthony Richardson, kind of in that. Like I think you said that back end QB1 range, but I'm thinking more closer to 7, 8, to closer to 11, 12 if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I'm just like, since I'm looking at Sleeper right now, and that's the worry for me isn't his passing numbers. They've been good. I mean, last year they sucked because of the thumb injury. Was it the thumb or a finger?
Yeah,
either way.
It was a thumb.
But the problem is, so I'm going to assume 2020 is when he broke, what is it, ankle, leg?
Yeah, he was off to a crazy start, and then snapped his ankle there.
But so that's where he goes from a minimum of about 290 rushing to a high point of 180. So he's lost his rushing yards here have been cut in by half. And even worse than, okay, so I can deal with Luke going from 300 rushing yards to 180. The problem is rushing touchdowns were 6, 6, 6, 6, 3. Now they're 3, 1, 1. It's just his rushing production. He's not rushing anymore. And that's, I think, is what's capping his ceiling. And it's why I don't think he has, like, if you told me he was going to rush the ball again, I think he has top 6 potential. It's the lack of rushing stats are killing him.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's kick it on over to one of their division rivals in the New York Giants here. So my storyline that I'm following there, and it's a doozy. It's just kind of who's going to separate themselves in the wide receiver room. And when that does happen, is one or two of these guys going to be able to help elevate Daniel Jones to another level? You look at what he did last year in his big breakout year, and it was 15 touchdown passes was it. So, like, is there a level he can go above that, or was last year's breakout kind of his ceiling? Because if that's the case, I don't think what he did as a runner is sustainable again this year. You're talking about, Dak dropping down a runner. Like Daniel Jones, I don't think he's going to have the percentage of points coming from running as he did. So what's going to happen with the wide receiver? And that's kind of what I'm following. I kind of have a prediction for who I think it's going to be, but I'm kind of interested to get your take on the wide receiver room here.
I've got Daniel Jones as a high-end QB2. I think the passing numbers are still going to be good enough. The rushing numbers probably, they won't be huge. But the problem for me is going to be outside of Darren Waller. I think this is kind of a Chiefs situation. The old school, I'm a Saints fan, and Sean Payton hates fantasy football players, and it always used to be every week it was a different guy. So if I had to pick one, it would be Isaiah Hodgins. But
Yeah, I like him.
I think it's going to be, you're going to have a week or two of Hodgins, a week of Campbell. I think you're going to see a couple of big, huge blow-up weeks from both Wandale and Jalen Hyatt. And then you're going to have, if you wanted a consistent, okay, so I'm looking at the Giants here. If you want an absolute boomer bust home run swing in the last round, Hodgins, Campbell, Wandale, and Hyatt is where I'm looking. If you need to play it safer and you want something in the flex range, I'm looking more at Darius Slayton or Sterling Shepard. I think they're both boring. I think they're 10-point per game players, but I think they're just going to consistently be in there with their 5 catches, 4, 6 every week. The other 4, I think, are going to be really boom or bust, and it's just going to be, who's the hot hand this week. Jalen Hyatt's going to have his weeks where he gets loose downfield and breaks off 2 huge touchdowns. We're going to have some Wandale in the slot where, he might rack up some yak. I don't know if the touchdowns will be there, but I think it's going to be just a mix of who the hot hand is every week. I would pick Isaiah Hodgins if I had to pick one. I have Paris Campbell a lot because he's been cheaper. And I have Wandale and Hyatt the most in Dynasty. This is one of the teams where it's kind of diversify your portfolio here. I don't want any shares. And even with Darren Waller, I don't have that many shares of Waller. He's going at the point where, if by some chance Daniel Jones turns out to be a fraud from last year, a lot of people are going to eat a lot of 4th and 5th round Darren Waller shares. I think he's still useful. I think Waller's being drafted at his ceiling, so I'm kind of out on this passing game. Daniel Jones, I have as a couple of QB2s. I think I did draft him as a QB1 in a league where I missed, and everyone drafted QB early. I punted, and then people started drafting their second QB, and I took him as QB16. So, the price. The price is the main thing on these guys. I'll take any of them at the right price, but I don't think you can rely on any of them. And they are going to be the old cliche of they're better best ball players because you don't know what the hell to do with them.
It's a best ball team. Yeah, my prediction for this team is outside of Waller, Paris Campbell, I think, is going to be the wide receiver you want to own there, which, to be clear, I think that's going to translate to kind of a deep league flex player, your bye week fill-ins. And the only reason I think that he has a chance to kind of separate himself is I'm not confident Daniel Jones really takes another step as a deep ball passer. And I think Campbell's going to dominate most of the slot snaps. So this him and Waller kind of operating on the inside, I think they're going to have the inside track, and they're going to be the most consistent guys, especially in your PPR league. I think that Paris Campbell could be a 9 to 11 point guy as long as he's healthy out there. The occasional week off for a touchdown and 17, 18 points.
That's kind of why I've been hedging my bets with Isaiah Hodgins. The 2 you named above him, Paris Campbell and Darren Waller, are 2 of the most injury-plagued players in NFL history. It's why everyone says I think we're going to get to that, but I'll spoiler alert here. Which Eagle running back do you want? You know who I own the most of? Kenneth Gainwell, because the 2 in front of him can't stay on the field. So I'm going to take the 10-round discount on the only guy who's young and healthy. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
That's perfect transition. Let's go over to Philly because that's that was my exact storyline that I'm doing.
Oh, that's literally the next question.
Literally the next question is that was a professional transition. You're a professional podcaster over here. But yeah, my question here
every once in a while
is how is this backfield rotation going to play out? There's a lot of talent here on a per snap basis. But again, you don't want to talk about a lot of often players. Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift definitely fit that bill. So yeah, it's how is this going to shake out? And so I think I kind of have your read on it with it being Gainwell there is kind of a consistent producer.
Well, my original read was it sounded like it was going to be Penny on the rushing and Swift on the passing. But as camp's gone on, it's I don't know if this is just, camp and preseason coach speak, but Gainwell seems to be a lot more involved in this backfield than anyone expected. I was scooping up Gainwell just because I thought he was a good injury handcuff for 2 of the most injury players. But now he looks like he may actually have legit standalone value. I've noticed his ADP is going up, but if this is a case where they start with all 3 of them, it's going to be ugly. I don't want, I've seen Swift. Someone took Swift in the 5th round yesterday in one of my drafts. I don't want Swift in the 5th. I have a little bit of Penny because he's been going like 13th round, but give me the what do they always say? The ambiguous backfields like the Patriots last year. Give me the cheapest option. Give me the cheapest option here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think Swift is going to be the one that ends up leading the league or leading the team in fantasy points, but again, he has the highest price out of all of us, so like you're just banking on him staying healthy, which is any running back in general, but especially one with a track record of missing a few games every single year. So my prediction for this team here, I'm kind of switching over to the back is Devonta Smith is going to finish within 15 points of A.J. Brown this year. And at this time next year in 12 months, he's going to have a higher dynasty value than A.J. Brown. That more higher value dynasty asset.
That's an easy one. That's an easy
I think that's. Yeah.
He's not going to be within 15 unless he'll be 15 above A.J. Brown.
Okay.
It's not even close. Devonta Smith is the better player. I'm the low guy on A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, I can't deal with him anymore. Injuries, boomer. But every time I need A.J. Brown, he's out on the IR or he puts up 2 points. Give me Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith is the better player. That's who I want. I've had numerous times where I've got to that late second round, early third, and I've had both of them on the board. I take Devonta Smith every time. No thank you on A.J. Brown. I'll take Smith. I get it. He's small and everyone says he's going to get hurt, but the guy he's competing with is always hurt. So who cares?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for anyone that feels like that's crazy, I know there are a lot of that are diehard A.J. Brown guys. So Devonta Smith last year kind of had that weird week one where he had 0 points. I think he had like 3 or 4 targets, no catches. If you take his average, even with that 0 factored in and just give him that point for that week one instead of a 0, that jumps him up to where he's either wide receiver 7 or 8, depending on if he's playing PPR or half PPR. And at that point, then he was about like 8 points behind A.J. Brown. So that's last year. So it just takes like one more touchdown to go his way, and then they're going to flip flop. So it could happen very easily this year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't really have a huge argument for that. I seen it and I said, well, that's not even a bold take. I'll just take Devonta Smith straight up. But I'm the low guy on A.J. Brown, so could just be me.
Fair enough there. All right, let's get over to the last team in the division here, the Commanders now, which I vote they need to go back to the football team. I actually kind of grew on me after a little bit.
But the story like that as well.
So maybe that's the storyline we should be following is the name. They said they could change it again. But the storyline that I'm following here for Dynasty Leagues is Sam Howell, man. Is he going to be that guy that, is he closer to the guy that went, fifth, sixth, I think it was a 5th round pick? Or is he the guy that was getting talked about as a potential top 10 pick the year before? That's going to make or break a lot of this offense. Terry McLaurin, he's kind of been quarterback proof no matter who's been there. But if he can get, decent production out of Howell, then we could see every pass catcher there, Antonio Gibson included, go up to a level that we haven't really seen before. So what's your take on Howell and how do you think this is going to get out here?
I am the Washington Commanders contrarian. Everything you expect in Washington, I'm the exact opposite. I've been low after his rookie season. I've been low on Terry McLaurin. He gets drafted as like a top 12, top 15 receiver and finishes as like a 20 to 22. I'm always out on him. I am the high guy on Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson. I love them. I scoop them up everywhere. I should say everywhere in Superflex or Dynasty. I don't have Sam Howell in any of my 1 QB leagues. I don't know if he's a top 12. He's probably. I think he's Daniel Jones. I kind of think he's kind of got some Kirk Cousins, but he's got the rushing floor in there. I think he's going to put up some numbers. He's probably a high-end QB2 for me.
Yeah, like an upside QB2.
Yeah. I've got a lot of Dotson. I think Dotson is the receiver to own there. He was great. And I even have a few stashes of Dyami Brown because him and Sam Howell were college roommates at North Carolina. So I have a few, and people are going, what the hell are you doing? Why would you add Dyami Brown? And I said, well, it was his college roommate. And sure enough, he's had a few big plays in the preseason, but it's just a stash. But yeah, I like in Superflex, I have a ton of Sam Howell. I have a lot of Jahan Dotson, but the price has been going up, so I haven't got as much lately. I love that as a stack. That is one of my favorite, kind of inconspicuous stacks is Howell Dotson and Pickett Deontay Johnson. So I love those ones.
Love Deontay. Yeah, I agree with you there. One last note kind of on Sam Howell. So another reason I'm with you, I think Sam Howell is going to be solid this year. I think he's going to finish around like 15 to 16, somewhere kind of in that range for quarterbacks. When he was getting talked about the potential top 10 pick, He took a step back that last year. He also lost 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers to the NFL draft that year before. So, I mean, I think any quarterback, no matter how good you are, if you lose 4 skill players to the NFL, like that level of players, like you're probably going to take a step back when you're not in like a Georgia or Bama, then just put in another 5-star recruit.
He lost Javonte Williams. He lost Michael Carter. Who were the 2? I can picture was it De'Ami Brown?
Daz Newsome.
Daz Newsome. Okay, I was thinking Terrace Marshall, but it wasn't. It was Daz Newsome. You're right. But
and they all were like fourth, 5th round picks. They weren't like 7th round guys. I think they went 5th round or higher, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, any quarterback's probably going to take a step back when you lose that much talent and can't replace them with another guy at the level. My prediction here for Washington is Antonio Gibson is a solid top 24 running back this year. I know that's not super bold or spicy. He's kind of finished around like that mid-20s last few years. But I think the change in offense with Eric Bieniemy coming and calling plays, I'm not expecting like a Chiefs 2.0 offense, but I do think there's going to be shades of the Chiefs offense that's kind of blended in. But I think Antonio Gibson is the guy that's going to benefit the most in the backfield. He's going to be the guy that's catching passes. I like Chris Rodriguez as like a deep depth play. Brian Robinson, for a guy that literally got shot in the leg, like he had a fantastic rookie season coming back. But I think Gibson's going to be the most consistent guy because of the pass catching. So my prediction there, top 24 running back, Antonio Gibson. What are your thoughts on that?
I owned him as a rookie in the last round of a draft when he finished. I don't think finished 12th or 13th. I got him and James Robinson last round and undrafted, and they carried me all season. But since he was a rookie, I've just been saying give him the ball. It was J.D. McKissick ruining it. Now Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez are the same player. They're plotters. Mm-hmm. I don't think either of them is explosive. Brian Robinson only went as high as he did because he was from Alabama. If you were to tell me that Bieniemy was going to give him the workload he had as a rookie, he's the top 12 running back. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's the coaching staff. He should finish as a top 24 running back. But one minute you hear they want to involve him in the pass game and they want to make him the RB1. And then the next week it's Brian Robinson's taking passes out of the backfield and Chris Rodriguez. I don't know. This team has so much coach speak, and I'm not sure the coaching staff has any idea what the hell they're doing. Bieniemy wasn't all that big on, pass catching running backs. Like he didn't really use CEH all that well. So I think he misses on top 24, and not because I don't like the player. I think he misses because I have no faith that this coaching staff has any idea how to use him. He was a wide receiver in college. Why are we not throwing him 9 passes a game? I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, fair point. All right, well, let's move on from Washington and go to a team that, in my opinion, is a little bit more exciting, at least from a fantasy perspective. We're going to head north, and that's going to be the Chicago Bears here. Everybody's excited about Justin Fields, so we're going to stay away from that for at least the storyline we're following. What I'm following here is how does this, like, 3-headed monster in the backfield play out? Khalil Herbert's been awesome. They've been awesome.
I'm not excited about Fields.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, we'll come back and talk about that there. Running backs, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, who was, sparingly used behind Deion in college.
You can stop there. You can stop there. That you've answered your question. That's your answer. Roschon Johnson is your answer. Okay,
expand on that. I'm excited to hear.
Well, you want more than okay. Fair enough. He's a loyal character guy, and that seems to be something everyone loves about him. The problem is it cost him massively. If he did what any other, look at Zach Evans. What's he transfer every 3 weeks when there's competition? If he had done that and transferred away from Bijan Robinson, I think he's the RB2 or RB3 taken in this class. He was not just when Bijan got there. He wasn't just a dude who was brought in for a change of pace or a breather. He was getting legitimate touches from running back Jesus in front of him. Like literally, he's so good. He's good at everything. And then even you get into the preseason, the coaching staff saying, well, we're going to be looking for not just the best running back. We want the best running back who offers us the best pass blocking and run blocking. Well, that's not Deonta Foreman, and that's sure as hell not Khalil Herbert. I think Roschon, I always said by the midseason, Roschon was going to take over this backfield completely. I think he may do it within 2 or 3 weeks. Khalil Herbert looked great when he was going up against David Montgomery. Roschon Johnson is a lot better than David Montgomery. I think I think Roschon Johnson runs away with this. I have him in every league, dynasty, redraft that I can, and you could not pay me to trade him away in any of my dynasty leagues. People are saying, "Oh, well, you got him in the third round or the second round. I'll give you a second." No, thank you. No, thank you. Unless you're going to give me like a top 5 pick. Nope, I'm good. I'm keeping Roschon.
Okay, I like that. That's a good take. I think Herbert's going to lead the team this year in fantasy points, but I do think that in 12 months, like we're going to be talking about this time next year, like Roschon getting ready to take over the backfield full time as a senior player, sophomore, whatever. My prediction here for this team is, the addition to DJ Moore, it's going to stabilize Fields and help him grow as a passer. And I'm really going to get hot takey here. Like, it's not going to be to the level of like the AJ Brown, Hurts, the Stephon Diggs, like he's not going to jump into the top 5 quarterbacks. But I think it gets him to where he has like a consistent like top 6 to 10 ceiling every single year, even with the rushing taking a step back every single year. I think he is going to improve the passer to the point where like he's a solid back end QB1 for the next 5 to 8 years.
You took the words out of my mouth. I've got some friends who are Bears fans, and he's an MVP. He's going to be blah, blah. And the first thing I say is, this is not Allen Diggs. This is not Hurts, AJ Brown. This is not the same. He's not as good. Sure, he runs like Kyler Murray out there, like a little kid who took his parents' cell phone. They do not have the talent around him. This offensive line is terrible. Terrible. DJ Moore is not Diggs. He is not AJ Brown. He is a solid mid to low end wide receiver 2. He is not a wide receiver 1. Justin Fields is a solid mid to low end QB1. He's being drafted like QB4, QB5. People taking him. I don't know if I'm crazy here, but you give me the option of him, Burrow, or Herbert. I'm taking Burrow and Herbert every time, especially in Dynasty where I treat the rushing quarterbacks like running backs. I try and sell the second I'm not a contender because they fall off a cliff. But I don't even remember what your original prediction. I'm looking. Stabilize the field and let him grow.
Kind of stabilizes him, yep.
I think he could grow, and I think they're going to be all right, but people buying DJ Moore and Fields like they're Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen are going to be massively disappointed. Low-end QB1, low-end mid-range wide receiver 2, I guess.
I think like DJ is off. He's like your wide receiver 2 on your dynasty teams, and like especially like he's going around like wide receiver 30 to 35 depending what site you're drafting on. So I mean, I think that he does room to improve on that like ADP there. But if you're expecting him to jump into like the top 5, him or Fields like consistent, I think that's a mistake. I think that's a little bit of
people are drafting them both.
Yeah, I would agree there. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions here. This has been one of the most exciting teams. Everybody's excited how this team is growing here. So the storyline that I am following with them is, how does Jameson Williams come back into the fold? He has had a weird start to his career, between being injured and being suspended for gambling. So like I was trying to like go back and find, examples of guys that have started their career like this. And like you pretty much just have to treat like the gambling suspension like a guy that started on the pup, basically, because there's not a lot of examples of this, and there's just not many receivers I could find that had a career start similar to this that were very successful high-end wide receivers for dynasty leagues for more than a couple of years. So that's kind of what I'm excited to see, and kind of just seeing how that plays in. How do you think this passing game takes out, and what are your thoughts on Jameson Williams?
I'm I'm in the Detroit area, so a lot of my home family league, Detroit Lions homers. I was a Lions fan growing up, but they're going to hate me for this. But how does Jameson Williams acclimate? The answer is he doesn't. You said it, though. He's going into, it's going to be midway through year 2 before he basically steps on the field for multiple games in a row. He has a window here of so he comes back week 7. They play 2 games and then a bye. If he doesn't come out of that week 9 bye on fire and proving he's legitimate, he may be done. Whether it be for gambling or suspension or drugs or criminal issues or injury, how many times do we see this where these high-profile receivers, they don't hit early? If they don't make it by the end of year 2, what are the odds? I can't remember. Was it Jalen Reagor we did this with? Not injury or not issues necessarily, but he just never hit. And you go, it's just get him on the field. Get him on the field. He's going to be awesome. Then he gets on the field and it's like, no. I have no shares of him left. I think he's a bust.
I'm with you there, actually. Yeah.
No, sorry.
I have no share. No, I say I'm with you there. I don't have a single share of James Williams. There wasn't enough of a discount in drafts this year to like make up for the suspension to where it's like, okay, at this point it makes sense. Like he was still getting priced in there as a top 30 receiver, and that's way too expensive for me.
He's in one of my redraft leagues, and I guess Detroit area, so some homers, but redraft, he went in the 11th round. 11th round. He suspended 6 games, and he had 1 catch for 42 yards, 43 yards last year. What are you hoping for?
Leave him on exactly.
And I love this offense. Like, I think I have Jared Goff a lot. For me, it's been I have some Gibbs. I find I take a lot more Montgomery because it's cheaper, and I think him and Gibbs end up pretty close together. I hate rookie tight ends, but I've been getting a lot of Laporta because I think he has a better season. There's my bold take. He finishes with more points than Jamison Williams straight up.
This is
Amon-Ra St. Brown is the one here. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm with you there. I think we're gonna get a little bit spoiled this year. Like where a couple of years ago we had like Lamb, Edie, Judy, Ruggs, all those like receivers. I think it's gonna be a tight end class to this year where there's like 3 or 4 guys that produce right out of the gate, and then expectations get skewed on what we expect from rookie tight ends for a few years because we had 3 of them that were top 15 tight ends as rookies this year. I think this is one of those type of rookie classes there.
Back to Jamison, at very least, he's really lowered. Even if he does come back and make himself useful, he's lowered his ceiling. When he got drafted, he came in. It was between him and St. Brown to win the number 1 job. There's no chance he's winning that job now. No. St. Brown is locked in. Like, for me, he's a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. He could, for the first 6 games here, he could have 20 targets a game. I have him everywhere. He's ARSB is going to go insane the first month and a half of the season, and this may turn into a Cooper Kupp-like season where they just say screw it. And even Goff said that. He said that one season he just peppered Cooper Kupp, and he'd like to get back to that. Good God, he may see 200 targets this year.
That'd be fantastic. I'm intrigued to see. So I didn't realize you're in the Detroit area, so I'm intrigued to get your take on this one here. My prediction here is on the season. I love it, man. My prediction here, we got Jahmyr Gibbs. He's going to finish as a top 15 running back on the season, but over the second half specifically, he's going to finish as a top 8 running back where he's just going to explode. That's my prediction here. What are your thoughts there?
Top 15 and top 8?
Top 15 for the year, but top 18 over the second half of the season. Like we'll say like weeks 9 to 17.
See, what I would like to know is, did Javonte, I know this is completely not lines, did Javonte in his rookie season, was he out injured at all? I'm trying to look it up here. No, he played 17.
I think.
No, I got it. He played 17. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say what you're pulling. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I have it on Sleeper here, and he played 17 and finished as RB17. That's kind of how I see this. I think he could creep into the top 15. I don't know if 8's a bit high for me, but that's how I see this as. He's Javonte, and David Montgomery is going to be, I just said it, Melvin Gordon. I think Montgomery is going to be far more involved than anyone expects, and I don't think they should be going so far apart in drafts. I don't know. Montgomery, I feel, is a lot younger than Melvin Gordon was at this point when Javonte was a rookie.
He's better, for sure.
I think I've said so many names. Gibbs, I think Gibbs probably cracks top 20 and maybe top 12 last half of the season. The only thing that would lead me, if I was going to go finish as a top 15, I think it would go the opposite. If he's going to finish as a top 15, I think he starts off on fire, and he's the one who makes up for Jamison in the first 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. I like that. That could make a lot of sense there, man. Could be looking at that one kind of the right idea, but
no. You're looking at the way you do with rookie running backs. They come on late in the season, but I think if you'll know a lot about how the Lions plan to use him the first 6 weeks. If he comes out on fire the first 6 weeks and then maintains it through the bye week, top 15 might be too conservative. It's just I don't know. Like I said, there's the potential here for a top 5 running back if he gets a ton of targets and Montgomery doesn't factor in as much as we thought he would. But this one's a really tough one for me, and it's going to depend on how hot he comes out of the gate here without Williams.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's kick it on over to Green Bay here. My question or my storyline, I think you probably did. My storyline that I'm following here is just, are they going to get spoiled and get like a third quarterback in a row? Like, even if Jordan Love isn't like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers guy, if he can just turn into like Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, like that would be like one of the best like 25-year stretches of quarterback play that any team I think in history has experienced. Like, so I'm just intrigued to see how he acclimates in, what kind of the offense looks like, and just how good Jordan Love can be. What are your thoughts there, and how much are you rooting against that?
Actually, you know what? The players I hate on this team are all gone, so I'm not rooting against them. I'm doing my best here to come up with a comp as to exactly who I was thinking. Jordan Love for me is, and I had it and I lost it. Jordan Love, I think, is not Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers. I think he is Marcus Mariota.
Ooh, okay.
So I think don't get me wrong. I think like Mariota he was able to rush for a bit. He was serviceable as a passer. I think he is serviceable. He will get his rookie contract's got to be almost over. So he might get a couple of years on this deal as a starter.
They extended him for 2 years on top of, I think he has 1 year left rookie deal this year. Fifth year option maybe. Yeah, he was a first round pick, so they probably picked up his 5th year. And they extended for I think 2 years at like $10 million per, something like that.
I think fantasy managers who own him get a couple of years out of him. I think it's mid to low end, maybe mid range QB2 numbers before the Packers just say screw it, let's rebuild. Like, because they're gonna have to go for it. They've got a few years here of what Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon's a free agent, but I don't really like the weapons either. Like Christian Watson, I have a few shares and everyone seems to think he's the next Devontae Adams, but I don't think they have a high-end wide receiver one on this team. They have a collection of probably number 2s who are being treated like one. So I don't know. He's got Marcus Mariota written all over him for me. I don't hate him. He's not someone, I'm not going to have any shares of him anywhere in one QB. I can tell you that.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with you there. Actually, I do think that like while I'm open to the idea that I'm wrong here, I do think Jordan Love's closer to like quarterback 24 or lower. I don't think he's going to have like a big explosion. I actually think that like the guy that fits that mold that could be a little bit surprising and sneak into like the top 15, 16, I actually think Desmond Ridder, which if I was a good podcaster, I'd flip flop the team so we could go right into Atlanta next, but I'm not as good at transitions as you were earlier. But so I think that Love's going to be a little bit lower, and that leads to my prediction, where I think that this is still going to be a good offense, but I think it's going through the running game. So my prediction here is Aaron Jones finishes as a top 12 running back, AJ Dillon is a top 24 running back, and both of them are like weekly fantasy starters. I think this is going to be like a Chubb Hunt type backfield from a few years ago where they're both serviceable. Going to be a good offense. They're going to run the ball. I think Aaron Jones is probably going to 7 catches on the team, and they're going to lean heavy on their defense in the run game. They're going to finally play the way that Matt LaFleur's wanted to play since he came in. Now that, not that like they couldn't do it with Rodgers, but now they can take a little bit more control of everything and kind of really coach these guys. And I think that it's going to be big for those two. I think that both those guys are probably for the next 2 years. Jordan Dillon is going to be solid fantasy running backs for you.
This offense scares me. I think they're going to have to win low-scoring games with their defense. I've always been out on A.J. Dillon, so I'm still out on A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones, I could see. For me, it's going to be – Jordan Love scares me, though. Is he mobile enough that he's not going to check down? Rodgers checked down a lot. If Aaron Jones is going to be a top 12 running back, it's going to be – on second in the team in targets, which I don't think happens with a young mobile-ish quarterback. So I would say he probably misses out on top 12, but this team is so unpredictable. Who the heck knows? Like, does Love just panic? So that's going to be the thing. When Love panics and all else everything breaks down, what's he going to do? Is he going to take off and run, or is he going to check down to Jones? That's going to be the deal for me. And AJ Dillon, I don't think he's going to get the between the 20s work. I don't think the offense is good enough that he's going to score touchdowns. I don't think he's good enough that he's going to do much. I am way out on Aaron Jones. I don't think he's going to be anywhere close. Not Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, but Aaron Jones, I think, like I said, I don't, 12 might be a bit high for me. I think he's a mid-range RB2, but I could see it happening if Jordan Love turns into a check down machine, especially if this wide receiving core continues to be unhealthy and unreliable. but it's a tough one. Just Love doesn't seem like the kind of QB to me that's going to check down a lot. And that was always Aaron Jones' strong suit.
Catch some dump offs. That makes sense. So let's wrap up the last team in this division here. Head on over to Minnesota. So the storyline that I'm following here, I was huge on Jordan Addison, so I'm very intrigued to see how he integrates into this offense. KJ Osborne's one of the guys that counted to blossom across from Jefferson. And I think Addison's going to be the guy that actually does that this year. So I'm intrigued to see how that plays out. What are your thoughts there on how this passing game shakes out behind Jefferson?
One sec. Browns trade. Browns trade their what? Oh, Browns trade a 7th-round pick to the Chargers for Dustin Hopkins, the kicker. Sorry, I seen a trade come through live, and I just thought it was interesting. But it's only a kicker, nothing important. Back to the Vikings. This is going to be my crazy hot take. Next year, when we get to this time, we're going to have the top 3 wide receiver duos, assuming Higgins resigns, will be Chasen Higgins, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I love Addison. I think this hurts TJ Hawkinson more than anyone. I think they're going to have a definitive top 2. TJ Hawkinson's never really been a volume guy. He's never really been an efficiency guy. He's just a guy. So I think Jordan Addison is pretty awesome. He's either my wide receiver 1 or 2 in this class. But I think this is going to be an elite duo. The only thing that scares me of why I don't have as many shares of him in Dynasty is we don't know after this year who the quarterback's going to be. If you told me it was going to be Kirk Cousins for another 3-4 years, even 2-3 years, and he's going to keep throwing 600 times a year, I would take Jordan Addison over a lot of receivers above him. But I love this duo. I think they're both going to be awesome.
Yep. So we're in agreement. I'm a big Addison guy. And so I actually think that Hawkinson may drop a bit, but I don't think it's going to be a ton. Where I think that this kind of pulls away from is the running game here, which leads right into my prediction here, which is there is no running backs on this team that finishes within the top 24. And the next time they do a running back do that, it'll be a running back that's not currently on the roster. I like Alexander Madison. I think he's going to be like a decent flex play, but I don't think he's going to come anywhere close to replicating what Dalvin Cook was able to do with this team. I think they're going to transition to even more heavy of a pass attack now with Addison and Hawkinson out there, and Osborne is like a good third mover there. So that's my prediction there, is that it's even less of a running game here.
I'm checking some numbers before I say anything ridiculous okay. So maybe, all right. Okay. Yeah. Top 24, definitely not. I was about to just go further and say I don't think any of them finished top 36, but we'll say top 24 is safe. I don't think any of them come close. Alexander Madison was a volume guy in the 5 or 6 starts without Dalvin Cook. He wasn't good. Yeah. He wasn't efficient. He simply had 95% of the touches and volumed his way against Seattle, Detroit. So you tell me what the common theme is. Shitty rush defenses. Oh, sorry. Can I swear?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't think he's good. And each time he played, each year that goes on, when he gets his 1 or 2 starts, he's less and less efficient, and this team gets more and more pass happy. I see people taking Madison in the 4th and 5th round. I think he's a wasted pick. I don't have any Madison whatsoever. If I had a list of my top 5 avoids in redraft this year, it's like him, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel.
I'm out on Ridley and Samuel as well too. I agree with you there, 100%. Actually, that's interesting. I feel like most people are way in on Ridley, and I'm just maybe too risk averse on it. But it just kind of.
But the one I don't get is Deebo. I look at every time, but I don't get Ridley either. But so I say Deebo. It says wide receiver 15 ADP, and I'm going. Everyone I talk to is like, no, I hate Deebo. I'm not taking him anywhere near there. And I sit there and I say, who are these people who take Deebo in the 3rd and 4th round every draft? And then I get to every draft. Sure enough, there's someone who takes him in the 4th round. And you know what it is? It's not people who know what they're doing. It's that one guy in your league who looks and says, oh, Deebo's at the top of the queue. I should draft Deebo in the 4th. That's why his ADP is so high. He's not good. He had 1 season where everyone was hurt. How did we get onto Deebo? What team are we even talking? Minnesota. Sorry. Anyways, he's not good. I got totally sidetracked on my hatred for Deebo.
Sorry, I don't know how we got there, but it did feel natural.
Alexander Madison is bad, and I hate Deebo and Ridley. That's how we got there. Sorry, I tend to diverge again on my hatred, and it turns into Deebo Samuel freaking support group.
Hey, I love it, man. I never know where it's gonna go. It's an adventure
Yeah.
every time. It's good stuff. Let's kick it on
See,
over
that
next.
that would have been a good segue if we had the Niners next. Oh, we don't.
See,
God.
we could have had a Niners and a Falcons transition out of this one, and I just completely had the transition all bungled out here. Let's go over to Atlanta here. Um, So what I'm looking at here is good the year they finally kind of figure out how to highlight and use Kyle Pitts to create the mismatches that we like all the dynasty owners all know he's capable of. I'm not sure why they weren't able to do that last year. Marcus Mariota was horrible last year. That's why he wasn't able to break out last year. But
That's
this
your
going to be the
answer.
year they're able to put it together.
That's your answer, though. And that's why I'm higher on Pitts this year. I mean, his cost has gone down cheaper than it's ever been. So
Yeah,
that's why
like
I have a
fourth,
lot of
fifth
shares.
round.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, it's not that they didn't know how to use him. They had plenty of times where they schemed him up and he was open. Mariota missed him by 15 yards, and that's the difference. I get it. I don't know if Desmond Ridder is going to be good. Can't be any worse than Mariota. And that's why I have more shares of Pitts, because I think they do know how to use him, and I think they realize how good he is. Mariota just really sucked. That's the problem. Mariota couldn't hit him.
Yeah, he was really bad. I remember like seeing like a highlight video on Twitter of like a minute and a half of Mariota just like missing receivers last year. They were just like open and the
15
ball just
yards.
like,
Yeah.
what the hell was that,
Yeah.
man?
Yeah.
So that kind of does transition get into my prediction, like where I do think Ritter is going to be able to play well. I'm in on this offense this year, and part of the reason is because of the skill players there. And so my prediction here for this Atlanta offense is this year, Bijan's a top 5 running back, Pitts is a top 5 tight end, Drake London's a top 15 receiver. And I think that's going to translate into like Desmond Ridder just kind of lucking his way into like a top 15 to 18 quarterback season this year. I don't know that he's necessarily the quarterback this year, but I do think that he's going to like outproduce or produce right in the lens of like where Jordan Love's at, if not a little bit better there, just because of the guys around him.
I think all three are borderline there. The one, as stupid as it sounds, the one that is the toughest for me is Bijan at 5. I love Bijan. I don't know if this offense is good enough. There's a lot of good running backs, and I don't think, like Arthur Smith has said, he's not going to Derrick Henry 400 yard or 400 catch this guy as a rookie, or 400 carries this guy as a rookie. It's not going to happen. And if we think, like, I don't know if Desmond Ridder is a good enough passer to support 3 good pass catchers. So, London, I think, could be there. Pitts, I think, could be there. But Bijan, most projections have him with like maybe 30 catches. That's not a top 5 season. I think he's great, but unless he gets a higher reception total than expected, I don't think he can get there. I also think Tyler Algier isn't just completely wiped off the face of the map. He's going to be used. Like, they're not going to want to burn this kid up. The Falcons in a crappy division probably aren't legitimate contenders. Why would you burn Bijan out, giving him 400 carries and 100 targets? Like, we're not going to see a CMC Saquon Barkley level volume. And I get it. Everyone says, oh, well, he's a generational talent like CMC, Barkley, Zeke. He's not going to see the volume. This offense isn't going to be as high scoring. Pitts, I think, is top 5. London, I think, is probably a low-end wide receiver, so borderline 15 to 18. Bijan, I think, is an RB1. I just 5, like, you need a lot of receptions to pass CMC, Eckler, Barkley. I don't know if he can get there. I'm not saying he can't. I just think that's everyone's assuming, he's being drafted as RB3, 2. And I have some shares of him too in the first round. I think it's not the lock that everyone thinks. I don't think it's going to be that easy for him to just walk in and be CMC right off the like Alvin Kamara. He's not going to come in and catch 80 passes, and that one's the toughest for me. I think he's a top 12, top 10 probably, but I think he's more like 6 to 10 than he is 5.
Yeah, fair enough. So transitioning from an offense that is exciting to one that I'm not near as excited about, we're going to go over to Carolina here. The question that I am following here, and it's not anything too crazy. I mean, it's a question that's plagued this guy since he came in the draft. Is just kind of Bryce Young, like what translate? Is he able to overcome his size like he was in college? The supporting cast is not in Alabama level supporting cast, even though like he was on one of the more strong Alabama skill position teams compared to some of the pass casts they had there. Just it's a fragile supporting cast. I feel like Adam Thielen, if he goes down, they're really going to be in trouble there in the passing game. So I'm just kind of intrigued to see how this rookie year goes and how Bryce Young acclimates to the NFL game.
I think he is a discount version of Drew Brees. He's really smart.
Okay.
He's really smart with the ball. I think I don't think he's going to be. He's a low end QB2 in his rookie year. There's no weapons here. I think Miles Sanders. I know everyone hates Miles Sanders. He could see a career high in targets, and I mean his rookie year he had a ton. This could be check down city. This is a team where if they had a Mark Andrews or if Gesicki had gone to Carolina, Gesicki's probably a top 10 tight end for me. This is just screaming rookie check down. Like you said, there's no tight end. It's Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas. I don't even know who else. There's Miles Sanders in the backfield. Oh, is he there? So that's a little more reliable, but it's still not, it's nothing special. But the wide receivers, like I have a lot of Adam. Can you hear that?
I couldn't make it out, but I heard something. Yeah,
that was several 4-letter words on Fortnite. I apologize. He's 9. Great. Hey, sorry. Anyways, the wide receiver room is as bad. You think you know what happened? I showed him the Panthers wide receiver depth chart, and he started screaming. That's
understandable.
The wide receiver, like I have a lot of shares of Thielen because what more does a rookie quarterback want? He wants a solid, reliable veteran presence. They're probably working together in camp because he's the mentor there. I have Thielen. I got him. I just did a 15-round draft. I got him as my last, but literally Mr. Irrelevant. DJ Chark's already battling injury.
Already hurt, yeah.
Was never a big Chark fan. The only other one I do have a lot of shares of, more so in Dynasty and some late-round redraft, I like Jonathan Mingo, but if I had to hedge my bets, I would say it would be Adam Thielen, but I don't mind either. I think I get it. Everyone says this wide receiver room's terrible. It's not the worst in the league. Like the Saints, what the Saints had last year was far worse. Yeah. But I don't mind Thielen and I don't mind Mingo. Are either of them anything better than a flex? I don't know, but Thielen could see some volume here as the veteran presence.
Yeah, I mean, my person I had team was just Thielen's the top 36 receiver, solid flex option. And I agree, like they're not a bad group. It's just it's fragile. If one more guy goes down, then you're looking at Mingo or Thielen being the wide receiver one with really no one, like Terrace Marshall, I guess, behind him. So it's fragile. His future wide receiver one isn't on the team this year yet.
Well, Chark is already hurt. If Thielen goes down, Mingo could be huge.
He could just like be the guy that just looks into all those targets.
Because he's not bad himself. I get it. He's a rookie, but if he's the only option, he could be scary good.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's kick it on over to the Saints here. And storyline here, I mean, I got burned by this guy in so many fantasy leagues last year, but I am ready to get hurt again. Is Michael Thomas, man, and can he finally stay healthy? When he's been on the field the last few years, a couple games, he's been solid. I mean, or is he just cooked? Because I think that how good he is a big point of how good this offense is going to be and kind of what the future of this team looks like. So that's where I'm following. What side of the debate do you come in on that one with Thomas?
I'm a Saints fan, and Michael Thomas is one of my favorite players. I can't. You know what the worst part is? For a guy who hasn't played, like I got him the year in my first ever Dynasty draft. I got him as my wide. I got him in the first round when he was the wide receiver one. He's been terrible since then, and it's been what 2.5 years. Since
2020, I think he had a good year.
But he's still going, like in redraft leagues, he's going in the 10th to 12th round. He's played like 3 games. He hasn't scored. Did he score a touchdown last year, or was it the year before where he had no touchdown?
He might have had one.
I think he played like one in 2 years or something. But and he's still going in the 10th or 12th round because hey, it's Michael Thomas. I'm out. Even if he comes back, he's not going to see the volume he's seen with Drew Brees because it's not Drew Brees. It's not Sean Payton. He's hurt. Derek Carr's dog shit. And Chris Olave's there. Chris Olave is way better than Michael Thomas at this point, and it's not even close. Michael Thomas is someone I'll take in the last round of a draft, but I don't think he has it anymore. And certainly for me, his cost. If I can get him in the 15th round, sure, it's free and I can drop him. I'm not paying a 10th. Like I seen him yesterday. I can't remember off the top of my head, but people passed on. Someone took him And there was still like there was Treylon Burks, Sky Moore. Like there were some decent players left on the board that I would have rather had. No, and all the rookies, Addison, Flowers, Quentin Johnston, give me all of them. They all have higher upside. And I just, no Breeze, no Peyton, Derek Carr, Chris Olave. This is a bad, Kamara is not what he used to be. I'm out. I'm out on Thomas at the 10th, the 12th round, unless he's free. If he's on the waiver wire and he shows me something the first few weeks, I'll add him. Until then, it's prove it to me. He's one of my favorite players, and I've done this enough. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, I think he's one of those. I think weirdly, it's actually probably cheaper to acquire in Dynasty than redraft. I think in redraft, people are still kind of holding out hope, like you said, kind of 10th, 11th round, where you could probably, unless the team's a contender, you could probably get Thomas for like a third, maybe throw like a third out there, and maybe a future second down the road.
This is how dumb people are. We did this with Josh Gordon for 10 years. Every year, Josh Gordon signed with someone's practice squad. Let's draft him in the 8th round because he had one good season 500 joints ago.
Mm-hmm. He just played in the wrong era, man. That's all it was. He should have played today, and he'd have been fine. Yeah. My prediction here on this team here will transition away from the receivers because I do agree with you. Olave is surefire top 12 receiver there. He's a stud. But my prediction here is that this in 12 months, so this time next year, Kendre Miller is going to be the dynasty RB1 on this team. And I think the second half of the season, like last 5-6 games, I think you're going to see him really just kind of take over all the, like not all of it, but like the majority of the ground game. You see Kamara kind of be that, not complimentary piece, it'll be a 50-50 split. I think that most of the stuff in between the tackles, you'll see Kendre Miller taking over by the end of this year. I think he'll pass Jamal Williams to Kendre Miller. Buy him now and profit years 2 and 3.
I was the Kendre Miller guy. Beside Roschon, it was Kendre Miller. I've had little bit where I've come back a little bit. His knee injury is starting to worry me a bit. The other thing was, I bought him. I said the talent is great. Kamara gets 6 to 8 games. He's never getting his job back. Kamara only got 3. And if Kendre Miller's not ready to go full speed, and then you add in Jamal Williams vulturing goal line touches, I think you're right. I think this time next year, he's the running back 1 because I don't think Kamara is necessarily on this team next year. So I think he's the RB1 next year. At one point, I was saying that, like I said, Kamara never gets his job back. He's the RB1 to start this season, and Kamara never. But that's the thing. The 3-game suspension is a joke. The knee injury that he didn't test for, at the combine, that's starting to scare me. I still think next year he's the RB1 for the Saints in Dynasty. I'm just not paying nearly as much as I was. I was targeting him a lot in redraft. He was I get to, round 12, 13, 14. And anytime I had a turn pick, it was Roschon Kendre every time. People started overdrafting against me, knowing that if it got to me, I was going Roschon Kendre every freaking time. But now I'm going Roschon and like Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert. And I'm waiting a few rounds to get Kendre. And I find I'm not getting him anymore just because the suspension and the knee injury. I like him a lot for Dynasty. I don't like him as much in redraft this year. 3-headed backfield, short suspension, knee injury, shitty offense. It's a Dynasty play for me. But yeah, I think he's the easy running back 1 next year.
Yep, agreed there. Let's wrap up this division here and get over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The storyline I'm following here, like for me, I basically only play in super flex leagues anymore. So it's more relevant for here. Is Baker Mayfield, man, can he be a top 25 quarterback? I mean, I was looking back at the past rosters. I think this is pretty unarguably the best group of pass catchers he's ever played with his career. He kind of had a little flash for the one game and with the Rams last year. So is he able to kind of maintain that top 25 status where he's a super flex starter, or is, Kyle Trask or somebody else not on the roster currently going to be taken over by the end of the year?
Kyle Trask is going to play at some point this year. Baker's going to play bad enough at some point, whether it's just a half or he loses his job, Trask is going to play. My thought is that if Baker can't be a top 25 quarterback with these weapons, Baker should be in the XFL next year. I get it. Everyone's out on Evans because of the quarterback. Everyone's out on Godwin. These weapons are good enough that Tom Brady was 100 years old and couldn't move and was the worst we had seen since his days in Michigan and was still a halfway usable quarterback. in his final season with a walker. You have to be a top 25 quarterback. I have some shares. I have a lot of Godwin because I like him better. I have some Mike, I combined the two there. Mike Evans lately because he's falling so far. Dynasty, I've got a lot of shares of Trey Palmer. I think he's really, really explosive and he could be good when one of these guys moves on. The one I think it benefits most, I didn't check what your next question was. I don't want to spoil your thunder here. Oh, no. The one I think it benefits most as a pass catcher is Rachaad White. You know who was second last year in checkdowns to the running back? Tom Brady. You know who was first? You know who was first? Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
Okay.
So he had a higher checkdown rate than anyone else in the league. I think that is what makes Rachaad White a sneaky play there. Can Baker do it? I think he's a low-end QB too. That just tells you how bad I think Baker Mayfield is. I think he's going to have the odd game where he wings it and he looks good, but then he throws 4 interceptions. So this is going to be an indictment on how bad these two quarterbacks are. And I think next year you're going to be seeing Caleb Williams start for the Bucs.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that. Yeah, like Drake May, Caleb Williams, one of those guys there. So that's perfect, actually. Like my prediction for this team is that just they struggle, they blow it up next offseason, and this team looks entirely different. You know, Rachaad White maybe is the only one that's somewhat safe there, but even then, I could see them moving on just because, you know, get any value, blow it up, get some picks, see what you
he's a 24-year-old rookie, so he's not exactly young.
Yeah, exactly. So I think counting on any of these guys, Godwin, Evans, past this year is pretty risky because I think there's a good this team could look a lot different, you know. And maybe these receivers stick here and they have a rough year, and then they're catching passes from Caleb Williams, and they have a last couple of years of twilights as they age out there. But I'm not super confident that that's what happens here. So we'll go.
I need 30 seconds. Can you talk about the next one? I have an emergency. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good, man. We got this. So I'll kick it on over here to Arizona here. I mean, to be honest, if you were going to miss any division, this is probably the one to do because this is one of the weaker teams for fantasy and for the NFL this year. The Arizona Cardinals here. So what I'm following here, the storyline is just how is Kyler's return managed. You know, Aaron had just mentioned that Williams, he thinks he'd be starting for the Buccaneers next year. I agree, but I think that it could be a better chance to start for the Cardinals here. It'd be financially costly to move on from Kyler, but if you get a chance to get a May or Caleb Williams, I think you can't pass that up. So if we get to week 8-10, Kyler hasn't played. The Cardinals are 1-9, 2-8. I think that you could see Kyler just not even play at all this year. So that way they're able to lock in that top pick where they're able to get a new franchise quarterback. So that's kind of what I'm following there. And it leads directly into my point and my prediction on this team. Is that nobody on the team finishes the top 15 fantasy option at their position. There's some deeper guys I like for like year 2 and 3 dynasty players. Like I like Michael Wilson down the road. But this year, anybody on this offense.
Sorry about that. I got the neighbor knocking on the door. I told you, dogs, my puppy's in the neighbor's yard. I don't know how he got to the fence. But
that's an emergency. I understand that.
So we're talking Cardinals here, right? I actually have I have a 2024 free agent stash guide that is waiting to be published later this week. And the guy you just mentioned is one of my stashes in Michael Wilson. I think he's sneaky for this year because I don't think Hollywood Brown profiles as a 1 himself, but Hollywood Brown is also a free agent next year, and a team that's going to be rebuilding. I can't see them wanting to pay. Like you see what the Christian Kirk got. I think he's going to get more, and I can't see them paying that. So I think Wilson is sneaky this year and is he profiles more as an alpha too than Hollywood Brown does. If he can stay healthy, he is a legitimate receiver, and he is a good stash for me. Other than that, this offense is, you know, Kyler. Okay, Kyler, how is Kyler's return managed? That one, I had no Kyler all offseason.
Yeah. My take on that was it's like week 9, 10, and they're struggling. They may just not even bring him back. They're like, let's just tank, get as high as they can. Don't miss out on a chance to get Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Yeah. But that was my original take too, because I thought he was going to be out 8, 9, or 10 weeks, and then they were just going to rest him. The closer we get to the season, the more I don't expect him to be ready for week 1, I think like he could be ready week 3 or 4, it sounds like now. So it depends. If he's ready to be back in the first month of the season, I think he plays it out the rest of the season and they still suck. And then they move on from him probably. But if he's, like you said, if he's not ready to go by week, I don't know when their bye is, but if he's not ready to go by week 8, I would say, I don't know if he plays for them again and they don't just go for a younger quarterback. Their bye is their bye is week 14, so that's not going to factor in. But I don't have much Kyler Murray. He's going pretty much undrafted in my 1 QB leagues. I have no faith in him. But like I said, I have no gauge on when he could be back week 2. He could be back week 10. He might never play again for the Cardinals. I really don't feel confident anyway. I have some Clayton Tune shares, which lost some value. Well, they've lost some value this year because Josh Dobbs came in and he's terrible, but that probably tells you they don't see much in Clayton Tune or Colt McCoy. So
not right now, but maybe the second half of the season when Dobbs is Dobbs.
So I have some shares of Tune, but that's a long-term taxi squad thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a project. Let's kick it on over to the Rams here. So storyline that I am following for these guys here is this going to be like kind of like a last dance where they're able to kind of stay healthy and have another run like they did the year before, or is it a disaster and kind of the beginning of the end of this group for the Rams?
This one is kind of hot takey. I think the Rams end the season with Stetson Bennett at quarterback. We have
similar thoughts on this team then.
I think Stafford is his health. His entire time. Like I said, I'm roughly in Detroit. Health has always been an issue for him for the majority of his career. It's getting worse. Cup's battled injuries. I think Cup is still pretty awesome. I've hedged my bets on him because I don't think Stafford makes it through the entire season. I would not be surprised if at some point Stafford comes out and we don't see him again and he is done permanently and he's just out and calls it a career, whether it be injuries or age or whatever. He got his Super Bowl. He's made a ton of money. I don't see Stafford long-term here, which means if you told me that Stafford is not going to finish the season as the quarterback, I'm probably out on this entire offense. Even Cup's still going as probably like in Dynasty, he's still going as a top 6 to 10 receiver, even in Dynasty. And
he's a second rounder still in most drafts, maybe early third.
Yeah, and I'm out at that price. Like Stetson Bennett is a total mystery to me. I have a few shares of him. I don't like the profile. I don't like the talent. I don't like anything about him, but he seems to be one of those guys where he just has a way about him. And he comes in and just finds a way to win. And if he gets to the NFL, and that may very well be the case, he just may be one of those guys where he just knows how to win. I don't think he has any talent. I don't think he has any profile. There's nothing to like about him. He just may have that it factor.
He runs a little bit. There's that.
Yeah, but I'm not big on this team. This is one of the teams where I have a couple of shares of Cup. I'm not going to lie. I had some dynasty teams where I managed to flip Cup. I'm not a Christian Watson guy. Flipped him for Christian Watson and a first rounder. Sorry, I'll take it. I don't care. I get it. Cup's Cup, but this offense scares me mainly because I don't know how much Stafford has left in the tank.
Yeah, we see this team very similar. Cause my prediction is that it goes. This is kind of the end of Cam Akers being a thing in fantasy. I was lower on him when he came out of the draft. I think he's just kind of lucked his way into some volume in a few games. I just don't think he's that talented. I don't think his team's good. I think that this is kind of the last year you see Cam Akers as a thing. So I am, especially in dynasty leagues, I am selling right now that he has a tiniest little bit of hype and there's a little bit of optimism around this offense. Cash out on all your Rams.
Agree.
All right, let's kick over to a team that is a lot more exciting for fantasy here. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers here. My storyline, especially now I'm following, is Brock pretty legit, man. If you hit on, pick 256 or 262 or whatever it is, if you can hit quarterback from there, the easy sting of, going 3 first and a third for Trey Lance that turns into a 4th rounder a couple years later. So it's just how I'm not a pretty guy. I'm a hater. I don't buy it. But I mean, shit, like he one of the best supporting casts in the game. Like he doesn't even have to be great, just don't bad. He could luck his way into a top 25, 24 quarterback season. So I'm
But
just intrigued to see how that goes.
but that's exactly it. Did anybody watch the games he played? He wasn't any good. There was a reason he was
Jumped
Mr.
off,
Irrelevant. He's
short
not any good.
passes.
He did what Jimmy G did. He went out and had such an elite offense that he couldn't suck. All he had to do was not suck, and the team was good. If he goes in, he may win a Super Bowl this year, and it will be in spite of how shitty he is. He's not a good quarterback. He's a mid-range QB2, low-end QB2 for fantasy with insanely good weapons. Having said that, I'm low on Debo. I would rather have Ayuk as wide receiver 36 than Debo at 16. I have some shares of Kittle. CMC is what it is, or what he is. I'm out on Purdy. No, thank you. I don't think he's not spectacular. He's not even. I don't even want to say he's Kirk Cousins. He's best case scenario. He's Kenny Pickett. I don't like him. He wasn't good. He didn't look good in those games. He was a game manager. He was Jimmy G light is what he was. They won. They didn't ask him to do anything. It's like throw a short pass to Kittle and let him bowl over 8 defenders. Throw a 2-yard screen to Debo and let him run for 90 yards. Hand it off to CMC and let him. He didn't do anything.
Yep, I agree with you there. Fantasy-wise, yep, I'm all the way out on Purdy. But, speaking of crazy good weapons, most leagues last year, if you're PPR, just like a straight PPR league, Brandon Ayuk finished as like wide receiver 15 or 16. I do think that he builds on that and kind of cements himself as a top 15 receiver. I don't think he's going to jump into the top 5, but I think he's kind of like if you have him as your wide receiver 2 going into next year, you're going to be feeling really good. We've mentioned before, neither of us are Debo guys. George Kittle, he's solid, but he's got to the point where he's real up and down on a week-to-week basis. I think that Ayuk's going to be the one stable option in the passing game outside of Christian McCaffrey. I have him. I think he's my second most owned player across all my leagues. So Brandon Ayuk, I'm buying him now at his current cost. I think at this time in 12 months, he's going to look like a value at this point.
Yeah, see, I think he's definitely top 15. I think we're about to see a change into the guard. You're going to see the Keenan Allen's, Debo's, who am I missing? Devontae Adams. I know there's somebody else up there that's older that I'm forgetting.
It's kind of a year or two
Cup.
for Cup.
Yeah, you're going to see some of the older receivers fall out here, and you're going to see some of the younger guys get in, like St. Brown, Wilson. Those guys have pushed up. You're going to see him go up with Olave. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think he has the ceiling of St. Brown, Wilson, or Olave. I think he's the tier after them. So for me, 15 is probably safe. I think he's a mid to high end wide receiver too. I would like it if he had a better quarterback. I don't particularly like Brock Purdy, as I said. I didn't like Trey Lance. Nobody likes Sam Darnold. I would really like it if they could draft a quarterback. But
I mean, it didn't go well for him last time they did that.
Yeah, I guess
I take that back. Purdy, I guess, is looking better than Trey Lance, so I can't hate too much. So I guess we'll see on that one. Let's wrap it up here.
Lance never got a shot either.
Yeah, man. I mean, played in a monsoon and then broke his leg after taking a redshirt year, basically. And then, like a year before that, like his last year of college was canceled minus 1 game. So he played at, Dakota, South Dakota, whatever. So
I would have started Trey Lance over Purdy. I get it. That's the problem, though. They're a win-now team. They need to win, and they're going for a Super Bowl. Purdy gave them a better shot of being Jimmy G light and winning a Super Bowl. Trey Lance needs time to develop, and they probably weren't going to win with Trey Lance, but I think Trey Lance is the better quarterback.
They should have just given like a first and a third for Aaron Rodgers at that time instead of giving up 3 firsts and a third.
But didn't he say he didn't want to go there because he was butthurt because his hometown Niners team passed on him in the draft and he didn't want to go there anymore?
Very, very possible with a guy like Rodgers.
Because that's Aaron Rodgers because he's a douchebag like that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. Last team here, the Seattle Seahawks. Fun offense, lots of really good pieces there. Question I'm following is, Dyno has like 5.5 legit weapons to work with. Like, how far is he going to take them this year? He came out on a tear last year, kind of cool to end the, like, if he can kind of end up somewhere between those two guys, like, this is going to be a really good offense. And the reason I say like a half a weapon there is because
Jason's
like
hurt?
I think he's still going to be an asset in the second half of the year. It's more like Noah Fant's that half guy right there. Where I think for a tight end, like okay, just it's a weak position, but like he's not like a real asset or anything. But outside of that, you got 2 running backs and 3 receivers that I think are legit producers. Like they're all going to vulture each other fantasy wise a little bit, but it's like a real football perspective, man. Like Geno could just it could be like another top 5-6 year just because of who's around him.
This team's a nightmare for fantasy. Like last year, I had Cole Kmet as my guy last year, and he was like 0 for the first month of the season. So I had Will Dissly. Will Dissly started off, and he played a couple of good games, but then every week they'd have a tight end score 2 touchdowns, and it'd be Will Dissly. Then it was Noah Fant. Then it was I don't even remember who the other guy was. So I don't want anything to do with the tight ends. I'm a Ken Walker guy. I want nothing to do with Zach Charbonnet. I don't like him at all, so I'm not counting him as a weapon.
I like Charb.
I think he's a straight up backup. I don't like him at all. DK, I'm not in or out on at wide receiver 15, 16 cost. He's just there. Yeah. He's not my target. He's the last of a tier, so I have some shares of him. Tyler Lockett's the one I have a lot of, only because he's going as wide receiver 36. And I have a lot of him and some stacks with Geno, because Geno's going as like QB 18. So aside from the Geno Lockett stack, like Ken Walker's still going at a price where it's probably too pricey for the risk. Charbonnet's going way too high for a guy I don't like at all. DK's there. And so, like I said, I get my little stack there that I get. But aside from that, I'm not all that high on this offense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So my prediction, and maybe this is kind of where it differs. For me, like I think that JSN probably missed first 3 games, takes 3-4 games to kind of get acclimated to everything. And then I think second half of the year, like week 8-9 on, Jay, like a 20 wide receiver. I think that Lockett kind of fades a little bit just because I think he's still going to get his on his deep targets, but I think that JSN is going to take more of the intermediate short stuff. I think he's going to really benefit DK. It's going to give him a lot more space to operate. But JSN, man, he's legit. I think he's a top 20 wide receiver the second half of this year. I think I already have him as my wide receiver 16 or 17 in my Dynasty ranks. And I feel like I may be too low. He may be up a couple spots higher in the next update that I run there. A little bit of a buy low window with the injury right now, which is not an injury that I see affecting him more than the first month of the season, really. I'm in on the Seahawks offense.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's a great buy low for me in Dynasty, but as far as redraft, I'm probably not like. I like to get the rookies late, but the problem I find, like the rookie receivers, there was that group of him, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, and Jordan Addison. The problem for me is all 4. For me, originally he was 1 or 2 for redraft. The injury and the landing spot had him more like 3. I prefer Zay Flowers over all of them, and then Jordan Addison. I don't have any shares in redraft of Quentin Johnston or JSN. Like I said, it's the injury and all the. It's just every time I get to a spot where I'm about to draft one of those rookies, either someone overdrafts them. I find JSN goes first, which I never take him first. If I get to the spot where I'm ready to take them 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever, and I have all 4 of them on the board, JSN's the one I'm taking 3rd, which means I never get him because he never goes 3rd. I have a ton of Zay Flowers and I have a ton of Jordan Addison, and I have the occasional QJ share because he seems to go so much later. Just JSN, the injury, I think he's going to miss. I don't know. So if he starts on the season on the PUP list, it's what, 6 weeks?
I don't think at least I haven't heard that PUP's considering.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to. That's. I was just asking because I think it's 6 weeks. I believe it's 6. They probably
4 now.
Yeah. If I remember. Well, either way, I think he avoids PUP, but I think he misses a couple of weeks. And as a rookie, that never works out. The rookies who miss a couple of weeks of training camp join this season. By week 3 or 4, this team could have a nice rhythm going. And then he's coming in cold. I just think he's going to be too far behind. He's a great dynasty stash or buy low for me. I just don't have him at his current cost because I'd rather Flowers and I'd rather Addison in that range. So,
yeah. Man, well, that wraps it up. We're aiming for an hour. We went a little bit long, but I appreciate you fighting through family emergencies or neighbor emergencies to get it done. Here, man.
Dogs.
It's all right, man. They're worth it. But all right, man. So, where can people find you on Twitter? What work do you have coming up here? Like, where can people find you?
You can find me on any social media at FF Mad Scientist. You can find the Mad Science Lab podcast pretty much anywhere: YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Pods. We split a new show that I started kind of in the FFT format where it's me hosting and a rotating group of 5 or 6 of us. And that's called the Fantasy Football Game Plan. We start going live the Wednesday before the season starts. That'll be our first show. It'll kind of be a week preview. As far as writing, you can catch me at DLF, Player Profiler, King Fantasy Sports, or the League Winners. Just kind of check out their feeds or my feeds. I retweet all my work. It's tough sometimes. I think it's 2:30 p.m. here Eastern time. And in the past 6 hours, I think I've had 4 or 5 articles released alone just today. So I'm quite busy. Follow me on Twitter. That's your best bet to find everything I've got going. It's kind of a barrage of articles and graphics and rankings and videos. I'm kind of a whore. I get into a little bit of everything. So I'm all over the place.
It's the best time of year, man. Like, this is kind of like, for me, it's kind of kickoff of like 0 week for me. Cause, like, you know, I have 3 shows I'm recording today. And then like starting next week, it's Sunday, Monday, pretty much every week doing stuff.
You know what's killing me though? What's killing me is, so I'm doing my own work, which was busy all off season because I keep busy because I try to take off. You know, I always want to work too much, but so then you add in. I always seems like I can't remember the last time I didn't have a draft live. There's always a draft, and the worst part of the draft is that's what I hate about Sleeper. My only complaint is the damn league chat. Can we keep it to the draft? I don't care about you guys debating. I had one time I had to mute my notifications because these guys were debating who was the better backup for Arizona between Clayton Tune and Colt. Who gives a shit? I had to turn my notifications off. But between Sleeper drafts and all the drafts going on, and then I'm a director of content for Redraft at the League Winners, and all off season nobody did a whole lot. The last 2 weeks, I'm editing as much as I'm doing my own work. So that's a whole new wrinkle to keep me busy here. And then I got to add graphics to their featured image on the article. And yeah, it's I can't wait for the season to be over, and it hasn't started yet.
Already getting the burnout going.
I'm always burned out. Always.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming to join. This was a lot of fun. We have to do this again here during the season. Before we get out of here, like I said before, subscribe, fantasysixpack.net/plans, become a member. Then you can hop in the Discord and just hit me up directly there. We'll answer your team questions instead of in the Sleeper chat. It's a win-win, everybody all around. But until next week, I'll be back later today recording an AFC preview, basically in the same exact format here. So we'll have this one and then the AFC previews coming out sometime in the next week. I don't know if they're both coming out tomorrow, but this one will definitely be out tomorrow. But yeah, again, I appreciate you stopping by, and
thanks for having me.
Ahead to football season.
Take care.
You too.